The one? Yes, my name's Andy, and yes, that is an old photo, if you're wondering. I'm the CEO of VentureStream, so I have my fingers quite literally in a lot of pies, but I look after every channel, and in a past life I was an email marketing expert, so that's what I'll talk about today. Basically getting a little bit smarter with email, and doing a little bit more with it, with data and with kind of sensible lifecycle marketing. So, we are a marketing agency, and we do sell email marketing, but the fact is most email marketing tactics, agencies and campaigns are fairly boring. They're based around kind of marketers, buyers, or product teams saying, what do we want to sell or promote this week? What do we want to send out in a newsletter? In broadcast marketing, that's your kind of weekly or bi-weekly or monthly newsletters, whatever you send. Are by far the most common things to do, just kind of send them out and leave them be and measure the results, and like most are happy with that. And there's a reason for that, to be honest. It's by far the highest ROI channel most marketers will manage. And if you make enough money back off these weekly broadcasts or monthly broadcasts, then kind of what's the point in doing any more? And there's another point. Email campaigns and addresses are often seen by marketers as very disposable. They're the modern day equivalent of getting an advertiser through the door, if you remember those, or a leaflet. But if you apply a little bit of time, nous, sense and efforts to email, you can get quite a lot more out of it in the long term. So firstly, you have to kind of recognize the emotional value of an email address or email as a channel. Most marketing, like paid search or affiliate marketing or even kind of print marketing, is often quite impersonal and led solely by demographics. Email isn't a cookie that you get on a website or a targeting option in a paid ad on social media. It's not a paid search keyword or a text-based ad. It's a welcome from the recipient. It's an I trust you to engage with me personally. Here's my email address to get to me personally, and treat it like that. Greet and engage them, thank them for doing something with you, connect with their interests, and reach out when you haven't heard from them, like a personal relationship. But most importantly, keep their trust and their interests, and the engagement and the revenue will follow. And then, of course, apart from the emotional value, there's the actual pound note value of it to us. We've already talked about broadcast emails having a comparatively high ROI. But in order to get the most out of email marketing as a channel, we have to know how much our audience is worth to us on an individual and an overall level. We do this to segment and build campaigns around different value customers and their spend and their interests. And to do this, the basics I'll talk about here, the kind of two that I'll start you off with, are lifetime value, or LTV, and lapse point, i.e. the point at which we're probably about to lose an e-commerce customer. So customer lifetime value, it's often referred to, you might know it as CLV, CLTV, or just LTV, which is what I call it, is the lifetime value of a customer to your business. And how many of you know it? I would imagine not more than about 5 or 10 of you know the true lifetime value of your customer. How many of you know how long your customers stay with you? Again, probably not many of you. That information isn't really native to things like analytics or Magento or Shopify or most e-commerce or email platforms. You have to kind of try and find it and dig into it. But we need to know these kind of details to market a little bit more smarter. We need to know the lifetime value per person individually. We need to know kind of customer averages of lifetime value, and we need to know the average lifespan of a customer and how long they stay with us. So I'll go through them. Some of them have little figures and numbers and what have you, but don't worry about them. It's more the principle rather than the actual maths. But individual lifetime value is dead simple as it sounds. You take the customer, in this case Charlotte, and we simply add up the value of her orders. Dead simple. So she's placed 6 orders of varying values, and her lifetime value to us is just under 300 quid. It's not very kind of advanced email marketing so far, but that's how you get it. But we start looking a little bit further, a little bit wider. So here's 6 different customers. And in reality, you guys are going to be looking at tens of thousands of different customers in a data set and trying to aggregate this. But we've got a mix. We've got some low spenders, we've got some high spenders, we've got some spenders in the middle. So the overall average is about 310 quid, 309 pounds. But in reality, averages mean nothing if we don't do something with them. So what we do is to make sense of them and to use them, you should ideally put them into different buckets that you can do something with. So here we've got 4 different segments. We've got low value customers who spend up to £49, mid-value customers who spend between 50 and 200, high between 250 and 499, and then whales or really high spenders, whatever you want to call them, who spend over 500 quid, who are atypical to this store. So what do we do with it? Ideally, we have campaigns that we kind of design around these values and these buckets. With the low spenders, we'll try and encourage repeat orders with discounts to try and kind of move them up to the mid-value spenders. We'll try and increase their average order value to get them to spend a bit more, to improve gross margin and make each of those low-value customers more profitable. With the mid-value customers, we'll try and nurture that relationship to encourage them to spend again, spend a little bit more. We'll reward their loyalty for sticking with us or spending a lot. And then with high-value customers, you do that even more. So you might target them personally with direct mail or thanks, unique discounts, special loyalty tiers or special loyalty programs. And then with whales or really high value customers, which might only be a handful, we might contact these individually, either by phone or by email or whatever, or make sure they receive special discounts or payment terms if they're, they might rely on a wholesale customer. We'll tailor marketing towards them specifically with VIP sales and discounts, or early previews of products, or sale previews, whatever it might be, as a thank you to a loyal customer. So you have to kind of segment these into lifetime value brackets in order to know what to do with them. So like I say, try and segment on key metrics like lifetime value. Lifetime value is a great one and it's an effective one to use because, in the end of it, e-commerce is all about making money and you have to know what people are worth to you. But it's not limited to that. It could be things like gender. In its simplest form, to tailor fashion emails to the most appropriate person. I would imagine everyone in here has got a generic email from a fashion brand, which is here's men's clothes, here's women's clothes, and it's just not tailored at all. Use data analysis of products on orders to find out gender if you don't know the Mr. or Mrs. values from a survey or whatever, or incentivize in that way. Incentivize people to fill in surveys to give you preferences, give you things like gender, so you can market a little bit more smartly. Or you could use purchase product categories to tailor content. Like a department store like electronics or fridges or TVs or whatever. That's useful for department stores or bigger brands. They're not just kind of bombard customers with the entire kitchen sink every single week, when in reality all they're interested in is the tap. And this is a key one about gross margin. Use gross margin if possible for lifetime value as part of a kind of a wider market and mix and modeling strategy. For example, on a gross margin in this store of 38%, Charlotte's lifetime value might have been 300 quid in a couple of slides ago, but her gross margin lifetime value is only around £113, and our customer average would be around 115, 117. That's useful to know, particularly outside of email marketing, not just because of this, because it kind of lets you know how much you should or can be spending to acquire a customer. Many channels, and even analytics, is focused around order acquisition and the cost of each transaction rather than the customer. But knowing a true gross profit number of customers can guide you in email marketing specifically and your wider marketing mix. Easier said than done. Most emails, kind of CRMs or most e-commerce platforms won't support this, like I say, which we'll come to in a minute. And it's tricky to use gross margin if you can't get it readily available, you can't calculate it, or you can't pass it over to your systems. And if it is tricky, feel free to just use revenue, which will be standard across the likes of Shopify, Magento, or MailChimp, or whatever, and leave the profit calculations to your accountants or finance team. The second and probably more crucial question to kind of start lifecycle marketing is knowing your customer lifespan. We have to ask and answer the question of, when do my customers lapse? At what point in their cycle and experience with me or us as a store am I at risk of losing them, and when's the best time to try and contact them? For SaaS platforms, software as a service platforms, or subscriptions, or business-to-business services, it's fairly straightforward to do that. You get your churn rate, which a lot of you will know if you do business-to-business stuff, and do 1 divided by your churn rates to get like the average lifespan of a customer in years. For e-commerce, which we're focused on here as an e-commerce masterclass, it's actually quite difficult to get an accurate figure, and it will vary wildly. But we can pick either an overall or a segment-based date between different orders for repeat customers, which I'll come on to. A business intelligence tool or a CRM can provide you this data if you're using a good one. The likes of Google Analytics, like I said before, will just give you transactional data or cohort analysis based on visitors rather than customers. But the best thing to do, if you can, and if you've got them, is to befriend your technical agency or befriend a developer, sit down and pull your database and get them to work it out with you, which I'll kind of show you how to do. And of course, it's widely sector dependent. For the likes of bridal wear or events-based companies, it might be pointless because you might only get them once, or in my case twice. Thanks for that. Or for the likes of mother care or mamas and papas, you might not have a customer lifespan of more than 6 months or a year if they're just buying their prams and their basics and buggering off. So how do we calculate it? You press the right button on the trackpad first of all. So here's a big table full of numbers. Confusing at first glance, but don't worry about it. Like I say, this is basically kind of live data pulled out of one of our databases, sorted in ascending order by the number of orders. There's a point on here somewhere. Yeah, the number of orders. It's an all-time data set, so we pulled every single order since the store began to get an accurate picture. What does it show? It shows that 66% of customers will only order once, which grows as around 5.1 million. And the customers is just obviously the number of people who have placed that many orders. Dead simple. So 14,000 people have ordered twice, which is 29,000 orders, and so on and so forth. But what we're interested in here in using is the time between purchases. Obviously, for one-time purchasers, the time between purchases is 0 because they've only placed one. But what we really want is kind of the arbitrary value of the next one. And also in our case, we had to look at the difference between the customer's first and second order, or kind of an average of a lot of them, which is what I've done here. So you can see the average time between someone placing one order and two orders is around 79 days. The overall average is around 82 days. This means that if it creeps much past 82 days, it may be likely that we're at risk or have lost the customer, because we know that the customer comes back around every 8 days. But on average, they will come back that often. This is a fashion customer, so it's kind of indicative of seasonal data of customers roughly ordering once a season, every 3 months. And it's essential we do something with both the first time and multi-time orders in order to increase their lifetime value, which is what it's all about. Now, you might ask yourself, particularly with the likes of analytics, just doing transactional stuff, why you would give them monkeys about repeat customers rather than just driving sales through the traditional channels. But retained and activated repeat customers have a much higher lifetime value, have a higher gross margin and cash margin value to you, have a lower cost per acquisition per order for you, and a higher overall ROI. Now, how do you increase the lapse point or the time at which they might go? It's a good question, and a lot of it, to be honest, it doesn't really matter to email marketing. It's more about kind of marketing and service in general. So things like good store services, good delivery policies and returns policies, ensuring customers can order relatively worry-free. Good customer service info, help and advice if they need it. Competitive pricing to ensure customers know to come back to you for the best offer, which is probably still the #1 driver. A good on-site shopping experience that's easy to use and not frustrating. And effective retention and lifecycle marketing, which is what I'll talk about, to ensure that we're beating the drum for the existing customers and subscribers who have already interacted with us. So of all these numbers and tables and slides, what do we actually know? We know our average individual lifetime value of a customer. We know the average customer spends about 310 quid in their lifetime and is worth around £117 gross profit. We know our average lapse point is around 80 days. We know a third of our customers shop only once, and our biggest revenue bracket is £5.1 million. But most revenue, or most profit, is from repeat customers. It's 7.9 million from those 2 orders plus. And we know that the retention and reactivation of the people that we've already got, our existing customers, will be the most effective or cost-effective way to move the one-time orderers to 2 times and 2 times and 3 to so on, because we've already got that customer data. So what do? The biggest thing I'd advise you to look at as a takeaway today is to set up what's called a lifecycle marketing campaign. Now, in e-commerce email marketing, the majority of touch points with customers are focused around boring things like order confirmations and generic newsletters, like I said. Even the majority of the big guys set up for this, they don't do anything more than that. They'll just get an agency to send out a newsletter every week and not be necessarily that much bothered about the rest of it. But introducing a lifecycle marketing campaign has its own fairly obvious rewards. Lifecycle marketing campaigns give us a healthy ROI of around 38 to 1, with 20% of retailers who do it getting around 70 to 1, according to eMarsis, a big email marketing company. Lifecycle marketing ensures all that we can do to acquire and convert prospects on our site into customers, to inform and retain our existing customers with relevant, timely and cost-effective comms, and win back and reactivate customers at and after the lapse points. And marketing mixes are exactly that. They're a blended approach from every single channel. But lifecycle email marketing is vital, as we might have already spent 8% on acquiring them, or 10% acquiring them via a paid search ad, or we might be paying out 10 or 13% to Quidco to try and get them to come back, or top cashback or whatever, or 20% giving them a discount as soon as they land. We've got their data, we've got their emails. The easiest and most cost-effective thing we can do is use that data smartly to try and get them back to us, rather than just sending them emails every week. We've already spent the money to get them, so we should be making every effort on the retention front to try and get them to order again. So what's lifecycle marketing? The 2 words aren't that complicated, and to be honest, neither is the process. This isn't a complete guide. There are bits before this and after this related to every single channel. But this is kind of a basic email marketing lifecycle. So we have acquiring a customer on the left there, through things like refer a friend scheme, on-site sign-up boxes, which you'll see, or social ads, trying to drive subscriber data. We've got convert, which is converting a prospect into a customer through the likes of abandoned basket emails and data capture, onboarding and welcome emails for your brand with discounts, depending on the customer status, information about your brand and your service offering to try and get them to convert if they haven't already done so, and kind of timely, relevant and helpful transactional emails. And we've got retaining a customer, so making sure that once they've put the shop with you, that they stick with you. With regular newsletters, the worth of those is immeasurable. Well, to be fair, it's measurable. Automated purchase help follow-ups to mitigate potential bad reviews or problems a couple of weeks after. Purchase follow-ups to make sure that they're getting the most out of their product. Repurchase emails to help them buy things like accessories or refills or newer models if that's your industry. Things like anniversaries, either shopping anniversaries or even email anniversaries, to kind of reward and engage them, and preferences to make sure that customers can actually switch off all of this if it gets a little bit too much We don't want them to like unsubscribe completely and lose them if they don't want these types of these campaigns. We want them to kind of be able to switch them on and off at will, still receive our newsletters, or turn on newsletters off and still receive these, or vice versa. And then win back. So reactivation emails, segmented emails, which is kind of what we'll talk about, based on lapse points, which kind of have increasing targeted discounts as it gets further past those lapse points. And of course, the omni-channel campaigns with kind of SMS and direct mail, or Google ads and social audience, or social ads using like our email lists to try and get them back and try and get the brand back in front of customers. It's all about striking a balance. Most importantly, it's kind of balanced, relevant communications with the customer. It's about encouraging repeat purchases and reactivation of the data that we've already got. Most email systems such as MailChimp, OmniSend, Emetria, DotMailer, Pure360, and Marketo can do most of this kind of lifecycle stuff out of the box, as long as your e-commerce system can pass it the data, and again, most off-the-shelf ones can. And a solid e-commerce email strategy should be focused around it being personal, so relatable to the customer and their interests, rather than just generic and broadcast. Transactional, always the main aim, and in the words of Glengarry Glen Ross, if you've seen the film, always be trying to close, or always be closing as the film is. And motivational, convince them to shop with you and that they should come back if they've already been with you. So, it's all well and good having words and charts and data and stuff, but, using data more smartly for a lifecycle campaign, we'll switch from this, which, I'm going to continue even the trend of poo-pooing on Argos. But we switch from basic order acknowledgement email and the generic email that they get every single week, which, as much as I try, I'm not going to fit into that top. But we go from kind of emails like this to more so this, to a fully automated cycle for customers. This is one of our clients. You have things like welcome emails with brand values and information and discounts, depending on whether they've just signed up on the site or whether they're a customer, because we might not want to give them a discount straight away. With email anniversaries, is kind of a tongue-in-cheek way to re-engage with them and just keep their interest, giving them a little bit of, I think, a 12% discount, doing there for 12 months. With basket abandonment, which again, not a lot of people do, but it's vital, to try and reclaim a lost basket on the site. If I've logged into a site and I add a few things to my basket and I go away, you should be hammering me within an hour to make the most of it, otherwise that basket will go cold. With content marketing opportunities, like free ebooks or free recipes or useful content, just to keep their interest peaked and keep them engaged with the brand. And like the generic transactional emails, order confirmations, shipment confirmations, etc. And the important part of this is that every single one of these is automated. You don't have to sit with an agency or sit yourselves and create campaigns every week. You spend a couple of weeks doing it once and you set it away and it just runs. And then after this, on the retention and win back front, we've got things like regular weekly newsletters, which is the only one that we have to do manually. And by far and away, that's the biggest volume, the biggest revenue driver. But it requires someone to sit down and create it every week. It takes days, hours or days, depending on the complexity of them, and it costs quite a bit to do every week. Let's segment that by a key metric. In this instance, we segment the generic weekly ones by location, because they've got a London-focused delivery service, so we tailor the content in the London area to that. And it's important to note that this is a cycle. So, my little special orange arrows are great, but at any point in this cycle, if someone orders, they go back to the start and it starts again automatically. So if I order in that one, I go back to day 0 and I get that cycle again, and it's fully automated, absolutely fully automated. So with this, the customer's lapse point, with it being grocery, is around 30 days. People order on average once a month. So we start the lapse points at 30 days on the second one there, and that's just kind of a gentle, time to restock. No offer, nothing like that, just advertising a store service for free delivery over 50 quid. And then we get kind of increasingly more aggressive as we go past that. And again, if I was to buy from that, I wouldn't receive any of these. I would just go back to the previous slide. If I get to 60 days, I might get an increasingly more aggressive offer of a reorder prompt with free delivery, which kind of doesn't cost me that much. Again, if it goes past that, I might give them a 10% off discount code, which costs me a little bit more, but I really want to reactivate this customer that I've got. It's cheaper than paying again for paid search, or cheaper than other channels. And then again, after 270 days, we might send them a 20% off discount, which is a fairly aggressive offer plus free delivery to try and get them to convert again. And if that doesn't work, the customers will still be involved in your purchase cycle, your purchase email cycle, and your weekly newsletter cycle. But chances are, if your average is around 30 days and it's gone 270 days, you've probably lost them as a customer. But the beauty of it is, all of this is fire and forget. Like I say, once it's all launched, you don't need to do anything with it if you don't want to. They go back to the start of the cycle if they order again, allowing whatever marketing automations on any channel that you've got set up to just take care of it. It's automated. You can refine and replace it as much as you want, as and when you can. You don't have to if you wanted to kind of get it set up, and you could theoretically leave it ad infinitum. And as long as your brand doesn't change or something like that, you can just leave it running for as long as you want and just let it kind of build and make its money back. Lifecycle emails, all of these have a much higher open rate of around 40% versus the 19-20% average for e-commerce, and a higher click-through rate of around 4% versus 1.5% for e-commerce, the industry is an average. And of course, we increase kind of lifetime value of customers, we increase gross margin value of each customer every time they order through a life cycle. We increase general e-commerce metrics, so whoever looks after your analytics will be happy because we're just getting customers back on the site to order. We increase return on investment from email as a channel overall, so an already very successful and very high ROI channel can be even more so. And of course, the biggest thing is it's hard to set up. It's not easy, and it's not a thing that you can go into analytics and click on and off. It requires kind of planning out and setting up. But once it's done, it's done. It requires very little input. So how to start? I've gone through loads of slides and loads of stuff, but preparation is key to do this. This is an example of a client's life cycle that we kind of plan out in a flow chart. I'd suggest you do the same if you want to do this. Go out, identify kind of the key touch points that you'll have with customers that are here in yellow. That's kind of where we contact them. And spend time preparing using data like lapse points and customer values to plan out who you want to communicate to and when you should do that. Introduce segments, like I say, for even better results. So use things like product categories that they've bought, or put them in lifetime value brackets so you can communicate with these life cycles differently to change the messaging on the creative, and use customer lifespan to change any rewards you give them to incentivize people or determine how long you'll let the life cycle go on for. Overall, like most email marketing channels, you'll get out of it what you put into it, and hopefully this demonstrates that using kind of data, your lists that you've already got, that email marketing done a little bit more cleverly and smartly can reap kind of even greater rewards from an already rewarding channel. And that's me. Thank you very much.